Beloved, hear these words of Scripture, and may they bring comfort to you. The eternal God is our dwelling place, and underneath are the everlasting arms. God is my light and my salvation, whom then shall I fear? God is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. And from Matthew, blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Friends, please be seated. Before we get started this afternoon, there are a couple of things that we want to remind folks of. One is of reception at Rainbow Park, just around the corner. But there's a catch. You can't actually park on Ospika. And we kind of know that the city might be paying extra attention to that today. So if you don't want a ticket, don't push your luck. The other piece is, if you have a digital device with you, one of these things, I'm going to invite you to do one of two things. Either make sure it's set to silent or vibrate, or get really risky and turn it off. Now, having said that, we know that there are some of us that actually can't do that. There are other things going on in our lives, even in this moment as we gather to remember and to mourn Art, that we need to be able to be reachable. That's completely different. But if you can do it, please take a moment and turn it off, at least to silent. The other piece is, if you are going over to Rainbow Park, then there will also be an open mic opportunity over at the park. So if you want to share a story or a memory that's special to you about Art, then you'll be able to do that over there as well. So that might also give you some time to think about what you might want to say, because my hunch is it's kind of a top 10 kind of deal, and it's which one do you want to go with, not will you have any. Also want to say a deep sense of appreciation for all of you who have gathered, the ones that are physically here in our main worship space, the ones that are in the overflow worship space, and those that are watching via our live stream broadcasts of this afternoon. So a special welcome to all of you that may have never been in Trinity before, whether it's live in person or by virtual space. The other piece of it is warm today. Even with fans going and doors open, we know it might get really warm for somebody. So there are what we're calling kind of cooling stations located here. So one is out in by the main door. There's water and a place for you to sit down. Another place is on your way to the hall. You can sit down there and get some cold water as well. So we would rather you get up in the middle of something and go get a drink than have something more complicated happen. So please keep that in mind. Friends, we're here because we need to be, not because we want to be. We're here to celebrate Art's life, but we're also here to mourn that he has died. And that in that physical way, he's no longer present with us. But like so many that have gone before him, he has transcended from this moment to the other side of eternity. And so this afternoon, we gather together to do two things that are very much a part of life. The first one is to celebrate everything that Art was to everyone who has gathered here. And the other one is to mourn that there's no longer a comma in Art's story. It's become a period. What that means for us as we gather is that for some of us, it might be a time when we really just find ourselves crying a lot. And that's okay. It doesn't matter how you identify your gender. Trust me, it's okay to cry. You might hear something in the next hour or so that strikes you as particularly funny, and you go, but I'm at a funeral. I wonder, can I laugh? I guarantee you Art have. So it's okay. If you want to laugh, laugh. And if you find yourself kind of stuck somewhere in between those where you don't really want to cry, you don't really want to laugh, you just kind of want to sit here, then sit here. That's the way grief works. It's not some linear progression from A to Z. It's kind of a messy scribble all over the place. And if you find that those emotions don't happen today, but they happen next week or next month or 6 months from now, reflect back to this moment and know that grief is part of life. Tears are part of life. Laughter is part of life. And there's all kinds of moments in between those. And so we gather this afternoon, and we do so with some folks in particular on our hearts and in our minds. And so as we gather to celebrate and to mourn, we particularly remember Vicky, Taryn, Brent, Tanis, Laura, Dan, Ben, Leanne, Amy, Jack, Weston, Evan, Maya, Marjorie, Kathy and Bill, Lauren and Susanna, Roy and Sue. And we also remember in the candles light those who have already made it and transitioned to the other side of eternity. So friends, we gather. We gather to celebrate, and we gather to mourn, and we gather to wrap it all in the presence of holy mystery and of this gathered sacred community. And so I invite you to join with me in prayer. The words are going to be projected for you if you don't have them on paper. Creator of all, we give you thanks for the people who mold and shape us, who share their lives with us, and help us be better people because of it. As we gather to mourn Art's death, we acknowledge that no one and nothing will ever replace him. Yet help us call to mind all the blessings that you have provided through him. May your Spirit guide us as we acknowledge our grief and yet look to the future with hope and peace as we trust that Art is now with you on the other side of eternity. May our faith provide us courage and comfort us as we lean on one another and on you. Amen. We're going to hear from 3 people this afternoon. The first one is Blair. I'm going to invite Blair to come up and make his way over to the lectern over there so he can share with us some stories that started in grade 8.
Thank you, Reverend Fillier. Put my old man stuff on first. Before I begin, we want to recognize some of the very special healthcare people that brought their kindness, their compassion, and their expertise to help Art through his journey with cancer. Dr. Richard Crema, who is a remarkable person, with an incredible depth of knowledge in pain management. He made himself available to Art and Vicky on a 24/7 basis, including providing both of them with his private cell number. I also want to thank Bryce Kaiser. Bryce is a medical social worker at the University Hospital of Northern BC. Bryce worked wonders at facilitating, coordinating Art's palliative care, both at the hospital and at home. Dr. Ifkar Khan, Art's family doctor, along with the amazing, dedicated, and compassionate healthcare nurses, including those at the hospital, those who came to Art's house every day, and those at hospice, all of whom are absolutely true angels that looked after him with dignity, respect, and compassion, always making sure that he was as comfortable as possible. We also want to thank the Prince George Cougars players that are here today. Each of the guys has either been a billet at Art and Vicky's or spent a lot of time at their house. Each has been subject to their friendship, their guidance, and the Brown House Rules lecture, usually explained by Art using his principal's voice, then later and much more gently by Vicky. Thanks, guys, and if Art was here, he'd be all about the upcoming season. Go Cougars. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Blair Mays. I'm proud to say I've been a friend of Art's since we first met in grade 8, way back in 1966. And on behalf of Vicky, Taryn, Tanis, and their combined Brown Lavadeur, or Lavadeur Brown, and I can tell you that neither family sees a difference. I'd like to welcome and thank each of you for coming and joining together as we celebrate the life of a tremendous person and a best friend, Art Brown. I think it's our hope that this ceremony, likely with a combination of some sadness, some tears, a little laughter, and a lot of supportive friendship, will help each of us to not only put some Band-Aids on the hurt, but also to store some great memories of Art in our hearts. When Vicky, Taryn, and Tanis asked me to speak, I was honored and honestly very terrified. I want to honor our close friend, and I want to include all the things about Art that are so important to all of us. I quickly found that I had so many stories we'd be here until Monday, which is actually a huge compliment to Art and his life well led. I'm so happy that you will all have a chance to share your stories at the park this afternoon. Roy's brother Lorne is going to coordinate and be our quote-unquote DJ at the mic, so please, as the Reverend pointed out, get your stories ready. Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "Many people will walk in and out of your life, but only true friends will leave footprints on your heart." Many people will walk in and out of your heart, but only in and out of your life, but only true friends will leave footprints on your heart. Art was our true friend. Art and I first met in junior high, along with Art's brother Roy, Doug Penny, and Jack Gordon. During that time, the five of us became very close, and the friendship bond, including our wives and our children and hopefully our grandchildren, has lasted through all these years. It was in high school that Art met the first love of his life, Jan Moog. They were truly high school sweethearts. After he met Jan, he never dated anyone else. They married in 1978 and they moved to Prince George. Art embarking on his teaching career, they moved into a little house on Trent Drive and they started a family. It was in that neighborhood and subsequent ones that Art displayed he is very good at turning a group of people in houses beside each other into a close-knit neighborhood bunch. On Trent Drive, soon the Browns, the Roses, the Mills, the Frizzies, and the other Browns, either the up the street Browns or the down the street Browns, depending on your point of view, were very close friends, looking after each other and collectively acting as the village that raises their children. Art also spent the same big role in building a close-knit neighborhood on Maurice Drive. Art and Vicky's neighbors are quick to step in when help was needed and are making some of the food that we'll be enjoying at the reception this afternoon. I want to use 3 traditions, starting at the Trent Drive house, and that continue through to today at Art and Vicky's, that illustrate the bond of family and friends that were and are such a huge part of Art and Jan and Art and Vicky's world. First, there is the family dinner, aka Sunday night dinner. Every Sunday night, like clockwork. In addition to family, anyone that Art knew that was on their own, a student from out of town, a friend of Taryn or Tanis's, a neighbor, was invited to share food and friendship at the Brown house. If you were invited, you were family. And you always had a standing invitation. As seating reached what we might have thought was perceived capacity, Art just added another table. At times, one end of the table started in the kitchen, and the other end was in the living room. After dinner, Art would supply each guest with Tupperware containers filled with leftovers, enough to tide you through for another meal or two. That was just the way he thought. There was also, years and years, the annual Christmas cookie decorating and dinner tradition. Bring lots of empty containers to Art's house on a Sunday in mid-December. You will find that same long and winding table loaded with hundreds of Christmas-shaped, undecorated cookie blanks. He'd start baking these sugar cookies in November, batch after batch after batch, and stuffing them in every little corner of the house that he could find. Also on the table, pounds and pounds of various colors of icing and all the little containers of sprinkles. Art at the helm. Okay, everybody, get decorating. Take lots home. This is your Christmas baking done for you. They all have to go. It was very normal to have 20 or 30 people decorating, including cougar billets and friends of friends. As far as Art was concerned, the more the merrier. Vicky recently told me that early into their relationship, she quickly discovered that Art loved to do big events in a big way. And probably, in my mind, the top of the list tradition was the backyard fire. A gathering of friends and family held regularly, weather permitting, and even when weather wasn't permitting. It was all around Art's fire pit. Usually started with a short notice call from Art. Come on up, hot dogs around the fire, which included a few drinks and conversation while watching the flames well into the evening. Sometimes it was 4 people, sometimes it was 12. It was never fancy, but it was always welcoming and comfortable. And you know, somehow the lowly and often maligned hot dog always tasted so much better when it was cooked around Art's fire pit, surrounded by a bunch of good friends. To Art, it wasn't the event that was important. It was the gathering together of people to share the event that made him so happy. Being grandparents, I put Art and Vicky as the MVP of grandparenthood. They love their 4 little duffers with all their hearts. Jack and Weston, Evan and Maya, you made Grandpa Art so happy and so proud. Please know that you will always have Grandpa's footprints forever on your heart. Excuse me. Probably don't want to hear me sniff all afternoon, so just excuse me. Art was born to teach. He worked in the Prince George School District for 33 years, many elementary schools over his career, as a teacher, a vice principal, and a principal. If you were to Google what attributes make a great teacher, you will find that those attributes include create a sense of community and belonging, both in the classroom and in the school. Recognize that each student is important, and be accessible, enthusiastic, and caring. If that doesn't sound like Art, I don't know what does. Well after retirement, many former students would go out of their way to say hi to Mr. Brown. Most of the time, Art remembering their names, the school they were in. He always asked how they were doing. And after the conversation would always comment, what a great kid they were. He saw the best in everyone. Unfortunately, the bright light inside my friend went out for a period of time when Jan died of cancer in 2007. For some time, it was Art's turn to be supported by others. Friends and family, particularly the Trent Drive group, came to the fore. And through their collective strength, they pulled him through what was a very difficult and dark period of his life. Then Art met the second love of his life, Vicky Labrador. To me, their union reads like the plot of a Disney movie or a fairy tale. Art and his family had lost Jan to cancer. Vicky had lost Dell, her high school sweetheart, husband and dad to the Labrador family, also taken by cancer. Art and Vicky's courtship got off to an innocent start. A Cougars game, with Art coming up to Vicky and saying, I know what you're going through. If you ever want to go for a coffee and talk, give me a call. That call did happen, albeit with some confusion over which one was supposed to call the other. But from that moment, their relationship and love for each other blossomed. That love and their collective gift of kindness and understanding led to an amazing blending of both families. How this blending occurred was best explained to me with the comment, "We were just two families who mutually embraced with love and respect. All of our kids will always be each other's cousins." On the day they got married, Jan's mom, Shirley, walked Art down the aisle. And at the end of that day, we all felt, to quote the Grinch, all of our hearts grew 3 sizes that day, with happiness for the love that both of them had found again. From that day on, they showed us how to have fun. They showed us how to enjoy life. And they showed us what true love looked like. And it must have been true love when Art took Vicky on a road trip through the prairies in the middle of winter. Go, go, Pinto McBean. Art had many positive qualities. But like all of us, he did have some weaknesses. He hated raisins. As far as he was concerned, a raisin was just a grape that couldn't make it as a grape. You also never wanted to tell Art that he might have to eat kale. Just not going to happen. And a weakness that you probably, not many of you don't know about, Art really disliked wearing long pants. I've always wondered what made Art angry. I've seen him mad, trying to follow the instructions on a DIY project was a biggie. But I'd never really seen him angry. So over the past couple of weeks, I've asked that question of his family, and the consensus that we reached is that Art got angry when people were treated unfairly, or were bullied, or were in some way put down by others. Art believed that everyone should be treated with respect and dignity, and when things were tough for someone, a helping hand should be quickly offered. He was so easy to talk to, and he was an amazing listener. He was never afraid to laugh at himself, and he was an unconditional friend. One person summed it up best when they said, "You'd have to be pretty bad not to have Art like you." That's what we all loved about Art. Art had so many gifts. Seeing the best in people, bringing people together, and helping people in need. These were his superpowers. And he lived these as a husband, a father, a grandfather, a friend, a neighbor, and as a citizen. We're all so much richer to have had Art in our lives. So please be comforted in your grief and always remember, Art was a true friend who left his footprints on our hearts. I love you, my friend. Thanks.
Thank you, Blair. Taryn.
I don't have much to add that Blair didn't say already. All I really wanted to say was that my dad was always very proud of the kids that he raised, and that's not just me and my sister, that's all of his kids. The reunion group kids, the Trent Drive kids, every kid who was younger than him. You didn't even have to be younger than him. He was very proud of the community that he created, and I just want to say, as a legacy to that and the kind of person he was, is I just want to acknowledge everybody that's here today, that's not here today, that's in the other room, and just to say, look at the people that he surrounded us with. And that's all of you guys. And you are the people who have been around us our whole lives and have let us know that you're still there for us. So we love you and we appreciate you, and you're all his kids. Thank you.
Thanks, Taryn. Vicki.
Getting old. So bear with me, there might be a little bit of repetition with some of Blair's things that he said. So first, I want to thank you all for coming to honor Art and to share in our grief. Knowing Art, I think you would be a little embarrassed about having so much fuss made over him. I also want to thank everyone for all the prayers and love and support our families have received during this difficult time. Especially, I want to thank all our kids that have been there for me to help me through this. You've made these dark days a little bit easier to bear. We all knew and loved Art in different ways. Art and I have been married for 7 short years, and we were together for about 12 years. But as many of you know, our family's lives crossed many times over the past 33 years. He was my daughter Laura's and Taryn's soccer coach when they were 5 years old. And he always said his claim to fame was that after 1 year of his coaching, they never played soccer again. Jan was my son Ben's preschool teacher, and I knew the whole family professionally. Jan and Art also sat 1 row down and 1 section over us at the Cougar games. Again, one Cougar game after our spouses Jan and Del had passed away, Art thought I looked lonely and asked if I wanted to go for coffee sometime. Our coffee at the White Spot ended up lasting over 2 hours. They didn't make any money on us that day, I don't think. It was just so easy to talk to him about everything. From there, it progressed to walks and our first date at Tan Vu and the movie Angels and Demons, which I had seen the week before, but I didn't tell him that. So because Art and I had both had only 1 previous relationship, we were a little inexperienced and anxious about this dating idea. But his old-fashioned and gentlemanly manner was so sweet, I knew he was someone special. He always made me feel so loved. And supported me in everything I did. Having both lost our first spouses, we had a deep bond and appreciation for each other, as we knew we could lose it at any time. Neither of us took life too seriously. We could affectionately laugh at ourselves and each other, or their crazy antics, mistakes, and stupid things we said and did, which happened often. Unfortunately, both of us were technically incompetent, but we stumbled along and thankfully had our kids to rely on. Art and I had our differences. He was a 60s man and I was a 70s woman. He leaned a little bit more to the left politically than I did. He was a meat and potatoes man and I love vegetables. He was always hot and I was always cold. He was a minimalist and a declutterer, and I'm a bit of a collector. He might say hoarder, but he was easygoing and I was competitive. He loved Neil Young and I loved AC/DC. But we shared a love for golfing, hiking, kayaking, biking, snorkeling, skiing, music and dancing, cougar games and traveling. Even the simple pleasures of life like cooking and doing dishes together, playing crib, walking the dogs, and watching British murder mysteries were treasured. We had so much fun and shared so many laughs over the 12 years. Trips to Jasper and Vancouver Island, Mexico, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland. And like Blair said, there's no better time to take a hockey road trip to the prairies than in January. I'm getting steamed up here. One of the most wonderful things that came out of our relationship was the blending of our two families and friends. He instantly embraced my family and friends as his own, and I was so blessed to have his as part of my life. We built our beautiful house and yard together and loved sitting out on the back deck with everyone. Sunday dinners for anywhere from 12 to 25 people were a fixture. They were noisy and chaotic, but we loved everything about them. When each of our grandchildren, Jack and Weston, Evan and Maya, arrived, Art and I were both thrilled. I was in awe watching them interact and tease and support each one as they grew. Dinner at Red Robin's, bowling, hot dog roasts around the fire pit, bedtime stories and sleepovers were so dear to us. He so wanted to watch and be part of your lives as you grew up. Art made life fun. He was always organizing one event or another. Like Blair was saying, cookie decorating, Grey Cup, July 1st, tailgate parties before Cougar Games, and the crazy Olympics at Lac Lejeune with the reunion group. It was hard to keep up. He welcomed Cougar Billets into our home and loved the hockey talk and offering encouragement before and after games. We are blessed to have so many of our Billets here today helping out. Thanks, you guys. And they're just such an amazing group of young men there. We're so blessed to have them in our lives. In my eyes, Art set the gold standard. He was confident and outgoing. He had a genuine interest in people and wanted the best for them. He had a soft spot for kids and pets. He loved helping people. He always cheered for the underdog, and he made everyone feel so loved. During the last 3 months, he was so strong and courageous fighting the cancer and the unknown. He really didn't want to go, but accepted his fate, and that was with God. Art, I'm heartbroken to lose you in our life together, but I'm so grateful for the incredible years and memories we shared. I will love you forever, my beloved Art. Thank you.
Thank you, Blair and Taryn and Vicki. The only word that comes to mind for me is wow. Simply wow. We're going to spend a little bit of time celebrating and remembering art in pictures and with music that have been put together and picked by the family. Many of you will probably be able to pick out what's going on. There are a great trip down memory lane in some ways. I think there's a little bit of something there for all of us, and you'll be able to identify with something somewhere along the way or go, I never knew that before. one way or the other. Let's take a moment and think of our own memories as well as the memories we see captured on the screens of art.
Christopher Robin and I walked along under branches lit up by the moon, posing our questions to Owl and Leor as our days disappeared all too soon. But I wandered much further today than I should, and I can't find my way to the 3-acre wood. So help me if you can, I've got to get back to the house at the corner by one. You'd be surprised, there's so much to be done. Count all the bees in the hive, chase all the clouds from the sky. Back to the days of Christopher Robin and who. Winnie the Pooh doesn't know what to do, got a honey jar stuck on his nose. He came to me asking help and advice, and from here no one knows where he goes. So I sent him to ask of the owl if he's there, how to loosen a jaw from the nose of a bear. So help me if you can, I've got to get back to the house at Pooh Corner by one. You'd be surprised, there's so much to be done. Count all the bees in the hive, chase all the clouds from the sky. Back to the days of Christopher Robin, back to the ways of Christopher Robin, back to the days of Pooh.
Who are on the road must have a code that you can live by, and so become yourself, because the past is just a goodbye. Teach your children well, their father's hell did slowly go by, and feed them on your dreams, the one they picked, the one you know by. Don't you ever ask them why, if they told you you would cry, so just look at them and sigh. Of tender years, can't know the fears that your elders grew by, and so please help them with your youth. They see the truth before they can die. Teach your parents well, their children's hell will slowly go by, and feed them on your dreams, the one they picked, the one you know by. Don't you ever ask them why. If they told you, you would cry. So just look at them and sigh. And know they love you.
Have I told you lately that I love you? Have I told you there's no one above you? Fill my heart with gladness, take away my sadness, ease my trouble, that's what you do. All the morning sun in all its glory, reach the day with hope and comfort too. And you fill my life with laughter, you can make it better. Ease my troubles, that's what you do. Brother, love is divine, and it's yours and it's mine like the sun. At the end of the day, we should give thanks and pray to the one. Say, have I Have I told you there's no one above you? Fill my heart with gladness, take away my sadness, ease my troubles, that's what you do. Like the sun. At the end of the day, we will give thanks and pray to the one. Have I told you lately that I love you? Have I told you there's no one above you? Fill my heart with gladness, take away my sadness, ease my trouble, that's what you do. Take away my sadness, fill my life with gladness, ease my trouble, that's what you do. Fill my life with gladness, take away my sadness, ease my trouble, that's what you do.
Wow. And trying to figure out what my favorite picture was for the last 48 hours or 24 hours. Pretty sure it's blue. It's a toss-up. Blue tongues. Kids getting thrown into snow hills. Countless hot dogs. An odd assortment of shorts that show up like when you're snowblowing. And I think one of my favorites is Vicky with one foot on the front tire of a mountain bike and Art on the bike. Wow. Friends, we've picked some scripture to share together this afternoon. You see them there on the screen. I'm going to read Psalm 23, Ecclesiastes 3, and then Matthew 6, 28 to 34. Psalm 23 goes like this. The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. You make me lie down in green pastures. You lead me to water in places of repose. You renew my life. You guide me in right paths as benefits your name. You spread a table for me in full view of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My drink is abundant. Only goodness and steadfast love shall pursue me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord for many long years. And from Ecclesiastes. There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to be uprooted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to tear down and a time to build. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. From Matthew 6, 28 to 34. Jesus says to those who are gathered, "And why do you worry about clothes? See how the flowers of the fields grow? They do not labor or spin, yet I tell you that not even Solomon in all his splendor was dressed like one of these. If that is how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown into the fire, will he not much more clothe you, you of little faith? So do not worry, saying, 'What shall we eat?' or 'What shall we drink?' or 'What shall we wear?' For the pagans run after all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own." This is the witness of the church. Thanks be to God. Friends, I'm going to invite you to join with me in prayer. Let's pray. Holy Mystery, we give you thanks for bringing us together in various ways to acknowledge the death of Art, the grief we all carry, to celebrate that piece of him that lives on in each of us. Ground us in your sacred story, that no matter what tomorrow or the days and weeks, months and years ahead might bring our way, that we can feel supported by you and by this, your sacred community. Amen. Kind of a principle of principles. Not a principle of principles, but a principle of principles. there's something to be said for knowing who you are and what you're about and what your role is in community. How it is that your life intersects and overlaps, intertwines with others, creating a tapestry that is unlike anything else anywhere in the world. Because you and your extended connections are all part of that network. It seems so easy when you meet someone like Art, for someone who just does it naturally. And at the time, we often take them for granted. Oh, there's this to worry about, and there's that to worry about, and there's something else to worry about, and oh my gosh, let's not even think about what might happen this fall. And that was before COVID. I saw a meme the other day that I would have sent to Art. Was a person dressed in a hazmat suit from a movie with a cursive board with a capital A in cursive and a little a in cursive. And someone had commented on it as a principal and teacher, how offended they were by this meme because they said teaching in September. And they said, this is absolutely wrong. We will never be teaching cursive in September. Right? We take community for granted. We really do. In part because we get distracted with all the other stuff that's going on. But in moments like this, it's community that matters more than anything else. It's community that holds us up when we barely have the energy to crawl. It's community that calls us out of bed in the morning. It's community that checks in on us at the end of the day. It's community that brings more food than we could ever hope to eat. It's community that's there 6 months later, 6 years later, when you just need someone to talk to. When you just need someone to mow your lawn because it's just starting to look like too much, or because you've gone away and you need your driveway blown out before you get home or while you're gone so that people don't realize you're gone. Or when you just need to go somewhere and relax and let the pressure seep away. Let all the challenges of life just wait until tomorrow as you sit around a campfire and enjoy a hot dog smothered with onions and other condiments. If God cares this much about the lilies of the field and the grass that is here today and thrown into the furnace tomorrow, how much more does God care about each of us? Wrapped up in that is the realization that there's no point in worrying about tomorrow. There's some ways nothing you can do about it. I don't mean not to plan. Don't get me wrong. I don't want you all to go, I was at Art's funeral and the minister there, he was a little crazy and he told us all we didn't need to worry about tomorrow anymore. So yay! Not quite it. Planning is good. It's worrying that distracts us from the moments in life. I think Art was pretty good about staying in the moment and appreciating the moments of life. I saw way more pictures that they could have used. Way more. Some of them made me bust out laughing. My spouse was, what'd you look at now? Oh, never mind, it's just pictures from Art. You have to have a certain way of being present in order to appreciate the moment and not get lost in the worries of life. And it's not to say that Art didn't know what was important. I mean, between Blair and Taryn and Vicky and others that haven't spoken today, but I'm sure will speak later this afternoon or have shared stories with one another, we know that Art knew what was important. I often think he never thought it was himself. He wasn't the important one, it was everyone else. was all the other lilies in the field, but not him. Last time I sat with Art, we were on the back deck. It was not too long before he died. There was crooner music playing in the background. He was sitting out there. Vicky joined us. We were chatting about different kinds of things. Pain was a challenge. And when I thought he wasn't really kind of able to follow the conversation anymore, I asked Vicky a question about how she was sleeping, and was she able to get enough to eat, and was she making sure she was looking after herself while she was looking after Art. And no sooner had I asked the question than he brightened up and popped up. He said, "Now that's the important thing." That's the important thing. Friends, I think in many, many ways, Art's legacy is community. As was named, you're all here. You're all here for lots of different reasons. But you're all here because somehow you're connected to who Art was and who he continues to be for you in your memory. That footprint on your heart, that never goes away. That stays there with every breath and every action and every moment for the rest of your life. So as we celebrate and reflect on Art's life, I want to encourage you to think of a few things. And maybe in the days and weeks ahead, when something kind of triggers you and you don't know why, and you just find yourself thinking of Art, you can think of these kinds of things. Because grief isn't something that goes away. It's not something we get over. It's not something you can put in a box and place, in the back of the closet where, your significant other, allows you to keep that pair of jeans that you're never actually allowed to wear in public. That's not the way grief works. Grief is part of us because it's part of life. So maybe, I know it might seem a long way off, but when winter does come, maybe you'll see a neighbor whose driveway needs to be done and you'll just do it. Maybe between here and there, you'll notice someone's lawn that needs to be done and you'll just kind of do it. Or maybe when we can do this again and go to a hockey game, you'll either do that in person or you'll listen to the broadcast and you'll go, Art would have loved this. Or maybe you'll try something new outside. Pick up kayaking. Go skiing in shorts. Go for a mountain bike ride. Go for a hike. Do something and take a moment at some point in that experience and just say, "Thank you, Art." Maybe you'll do something that you've never done or like to do too often and enjoy one of those hot dogs. But if nothing else, as we reflect on the importance of today, on the ability of God to hold it all in tension so that we don't need to worry about tomorrow, the everlasting presence of the risen one in our lives, and Art's continuing imprint on our heart, then do this. Find out who your neighbors are. In a world that has become increasingly isolated, in part because of COVID, but in all fairness, we were headed there anyway. In a world where we don't know our neighbors anymore. In a world where we're taught that our neighbors are scary, and we never know who they are, or where they've come from, or what they might do. In a world that peddles in fear, think of art and do the opposite. Don't give in to fear. Give in to joy and hope and peace and love. Give in to community and getting to know your neighbors. I guarantee that that's a principle of principles. Amen. Folks, I invite you to join with me in prayer once again, and it'll lead into Christ's prayer or the prayer of Jesus. Creative and loving God, who holds us all with arms of love and compassion, at this moment of farewell, we offer to you any regrets, any pain, the if-onlys of life, knowing that you will surround Art and us with your loving, forgiving, compassionate, and healing presence. We hold in our thoughts and hearts those most touched by Art's death, especially his family, Vicky, Taryn, and Brent, Tanis, Laura and Dan, Ben and Leanne, Amy, Jack, Weston, Evan, Maya, Marjorie, Kathy and Bill, Lauren and Susanna, Roy and Sue. We cannot pretend to make amends for their loss, but we who are here and those who are absent and thinking of them can offer the continued promise that we shall walk quietly beside you, seeking to understand the depth of your loss and giving you encouragement and support to continue on living. O God, may we also find comfort in one another. May the spirit of life and hope emerge in the lives of those gathered to mourn and celebrate the life of Art in the days ahead. Help us to realize the frailty and uncertainty of our time with one another. Help us to embrace the contact we have with your Spirit, that together we can respond to the witness of the good news and embrace the ministry of Jesus that has been entrusted to us. So even in the midst of our grief and our remembering, we also hold sacred space for those who continue living with chronic illness, uncertainties about what tomorrow might bring, the waiting moments of life, the challenges of our interconnectedness, the fear about what the next conversation with the doctor will bring. Help us to be your presence as we pause for a moment to hold people, places, and world events in prayer within this sacred community. Be near us, O God, as we turn our face towards tomorrow, away from Good Friday and towards Easter morning, as we join together in the prayer that Jesus taught his disciples to pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. The spirit of Art shall not know the blight of mortality, for it shall live on in the lives made real by its presence. For love is stronger than death. And so reverently, lovingly, trustingly, we trust that Art has made his way home to the Creator of all that is. And so into the freedom of wind and sunshine and the perfect kayak stroke, we let you go. Into the dance of the stars and the planets and the perfect pass at a hockey game, we let you go. Into the wind's breath and the hands of the star maker and the perfect gathering around a campfire with friends and family. We let you go. May all that we love about art continue to find expression in the ways we love one another and face whatever the future holds, both this day and always. Friends, may the blessing of light be on you. Light without and light within. May the blessed sunlight shine out of the two eyes of you like candles in the window of a house, bidding the wanderer to come in out of the storm. And may the blessing of rain be on you. May it beat upon your spirit and wash it fair and clean and leave there a shining pool where the blue of heaven shines and sometimes a star. And may the blessing of the earth be on you, soft under your feet as you pass along the roads, soft under you as you lie out upon it at the end of the day. May it rest so lightly upon you that your soul may be out from under it quickly, up and off, and on its way to God. And now may God bless you. And bless you kindly as you trust that you are forever held in the palms of loving and caring hands. Amen.
Got out of town on a boat going to Southern Islands, sailing to reach before a following sea. She was making for the trades on the outside and the downhill run to Papaete. Off the wind on this heading line, the Marquesas. Got 80 feet of a water line, nicely making way. In a noisy bar in Avalon, I tried to call you, but on a midnight watch I realized why twice you ran away. Think about how many times I had fallen. Spirits are using me, larger voices calling. What heaven brought you and me cannot be forgotten. I have been around the world, looking for that woman girl who knows love can endure, and you know it will. When you see the Southern Cross for the first time, you understand now why you came this way. 'cause the truth you might be running from is so small, but it's as big as the promise of a coming day. So I'm sailing for tomorrow, my dreams are a-dying, and my love is an anchor tied to you, tied with a silver chain. I have my ship and all her flags are a-flying. She is all that I have left, and music is her name. Think about how many times I have fallen. Spirits are using me, Lord, your voice is calling. For heaven brought you and me, cannot be forgotten. I have been around the world, looking for that woman love, who knows love can endure, and you know it will, and you know it will.
Hey now, what did I do wrong? I'm only 7 words into this song.